Today we were breaking down 5 running backs that you need to trade for before week 2 begins in fantasy football. Now these are players who maybe didn't have the biggest box score in week 1 or score 20 plus fantasy points, but their usage was quietly elite, which is why you want to buy low on them before they potentially break out. Now I'm Sal Vetri. If you're not familiar, I've been helping people win their fantasy leagues for nearly 8 years and plan to do the same for you in this video. And I want to kick things off by talking about a stud running back, a former #1 overall running back in fantasy football, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts, because you know the first name. You know that this guy was a second-round pick in the far majority of fantasy leagues, maybe a third-round pick in some of your 10-team formats, and he's somebody that right now you might be able to buy cheaper than you should be. You should be able to, that is, because his week 1 box score is lying to you. I'll pull it up right here over on Sleeper. You can see that in week 1 against Miami, an absolute rout that the Colts went out there and destroyed the Miami Dolphins, up 23-0 at one point, 30 to like 7 or something like that. Jonathan Taylor has a nice fantasy day. He scores 12.8 fantasy points, and when you actually break it down, he had 78 rushing yards. You factor over here, he caught all 3 of his targets for a nice 27 yards as well. So the guy goes for 98 total yards in this game. He doesn't score a touchdown, and he gets you 12.8 PPR points, 11.3 half PPR points. It's just kind of like, okay, fine. But it was quietly way more dominant than it appears. Let's break this down right now. According to PFF snaps from game 1, right here, the Colts ran 73 plays. Jonathan Taylor played 52 snaps. So what does this equate out to? It means he played 73% of the snaps in this game, according to Fantasy Life. But here's the deal. He played 100% of the first half snaps. Not another running back, not DJ Giddens, not Bentley, their third string running back, played another snap in this game. But he ended up getting pulled. If we pull it up right now, Jonathan Taylor ended up getting pulled in the third quarter of this game. He had a big hit. He fell on his neck, and they said, let's play it safe. You don't have to go back in. After all, we're up 23-0 and currently driving with the football. And it also gave the Colts the ability to see DJ Giddens, their rookie that ended up beating out a couple of other players in this backfield during the preseason for a job here. He played 24% of the snaps, handled 32% of the rush attempts, and for the most part looked pretty nice on his touches. Again, this was a blowout where they were clearly winning. Miami's offense showed nothing. The Colts were driving with the ball up 23-0 midway through the third quarter and said, Taylor, we'll see how this drive goes. Oh, we scored again because they scored on every single drive on offense? Yeah, that's okay. We don't have to put you back in. And Shane Steichen has already said that Jonathan Taylor is good after taking an awkward hit on his neck yesterday, adds that Taylor could have gone back into the game, but with a big lead, it wasn't worth it for them. So as somebody who has Jonathan Taylor in a couple fantasy leagues that I seriously care about, I was watching this the entire time. I was like, why is DJ getting 7 carries a row and the starting offense is still out there? Taylor's on the sidelines. He seems happy. He's got his helmet on. He seems okay. It seems like that's what happened here. There was no serious injury. They were just playing it safe. So what this means, in practically one half of playing football, he had 18 carries, which is insane, by the way. He caught all 3 of his targets, which is maybe a new wrinkle we'll get this year with a quarterback that is not Anthony Richardson, who never checked the ball down, the lowest check down rate in the NFL last year. So we got 21 touches out of Jonathan Taylor in week 1, and the dude played only 2.5 quarters and got 21 touches. I mean, he might have seen 30 plus touches in this game had he not got pulled. And in fact, as you can see from Hayden Winks here, he says week 1 running backs expected fantasy points. This is based on their overall role usage, where they were seeing their touches. Christian McCaffrey was #1 by an 11-point gap, which is insane. It makes sense when you get 31 touches. Saquon Barkley was #2. #3 was Jonathan Taylor, ahead of guys like Bijan Robinson, Chase Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Jonathan Taylor was 3rd best in terms of his role, was that elite, and he only played 2.5 quarters of football. There's also the fact that Daniel Jones ended up vulturing a couple of touchdowns. Now, only one of those touchdowns was when Jonathan Taylor was in the game. The second one was when Jonathan Taylor was already pulled out of the game, but he did vulture a touchdown. Taylor got tackled at the 1-yard line. Then they go QB sneak mode, and Daniel Jones goes in for the touchdown. You might be saying, are you concerned about this all year long? I mean, Anthony Richardson was literally his quarterback last year, who all the dude did was take off and run in the red zone and just in general. So no, I'm not that concerned about this. I'm just happy to see that we just saw the usage that we got from vintage Jonathan Taylor. I mean, last year when Jonathan Taylor was healthy, he led the NFL in opportunity share. #1 in the NFL, seeing 88% of his backfield's opportunities. That's his touches and targets. 80% of the snaps was #2 in the NFL. Again, by the way, he played 100% of the snaps, just a reminder, in the first half of this game. Jonathan Taylor is the offense. He is the entire Colts offense. It's all going to be built around him. That's why you saw basically 20 first half touches in week 1. I'm not concerned about DJ Giddens. I'm not, as of this recording, this video will be coming out on Wednesday. That's when the first injury reports will come out. Hopefully he's not a DNP or a limited participant, but as of right now, I'm not concerned about any injury related news here. And I think that you might be able to get Jonathan Taylor on the cheap right now before he becomes untouchable. Now, he does have a tough matchup in week 2 against the Denver Broncos. Maybe he doesn't have the greatest matchup there, and you could buy even lower next week, but I'd rather do it right now because there's a chance he finds the end zone this week and then you just can't buy him. Now, here are some examples of trades you can make for Jonathan Taylor. These are all like 2-for-2 trades. These are real trades that are happening as I'm recording this right now on Tuesday, 9/9. You can see these are getting across the finish line. Jonathan Taylor and the person is trading them, Travis Kelce and Jaylen Warren. Yeah, Travis Kelce and Jaylen Warren are 2 sell-aways as fast as you possibly can right now, in my opinion. I definitely like this deal if I'm getting the Jonathan Taylor side. This one's obviously just maybe people are like Jonathan Taylor for Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously, that's like a scam. I don't know if people are just colluding right there. Some other examples. Jonathan Taylor, and you're trading away Keon Coleman, who had a nice week, but obviously probably going to be the best week he has all season, in my opinion. And Breece Hall, who also had a nice week. I think I'd rather have the Jonathan Taylor side of this one, in my opinion. You keep scrolling down. There's just some more options. You can look at all of these. It's Fantasy Calc database, not affiliated at all. Just really think that they have a nice tool here. Jonathan Taylor for Chase Brown straight up. That's kind of a one-for-one trade. I don't think you're getting much there. Jonathan Taylor for Ladd McConkey. I prefer Jonathan Taylor. I took Jonathan Taylor in the Flock League over Ladd McConkey. After seeing Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston's involvement in week 1, I'd rather have Jonathan Taylor there as well. Now, the next guy that you should try and make a trade for, because you're not going to have to spend as much as you would on, say, a Jonathan Taylor, is going to be Zach Charbonnet, who, honestly, his role in week 1 is getting a lot of reactions right now in the fantasy streets, and it should be. If we look at his backfield competition, as it's been, he's been the RB2 the last 2 years with Kenneth Walker. He never in his career, until week 1 of this year, had 10 or more touches in a game where Kenneth Walker was active and healthy and finished that contest. That completely shift, as I just mentioned, in week 1 of this year. Because Zach Charbonnet goes out there and he leads the team, playing 59% of the snaps ahead of Kenneth Walker. He leads the team in backfield carries and rush attempts, 46% compared to just 42% for Walker. He runs more routes as well than Kenneth Walker. He's being used in a lot more situational type plays than Kenneth Walker. So this is all very concerning for Kenneth Walker. You then look at it right here. Here's the carries he saw more than. Neither back was all that efficient, but Walker only 2 yards per carry on his 10 carries. At least it was 4 yards per carry and a touchdown for Zach Charbonnet. He also, according to week 1, led the NFL in running back success rate, which is at least notable. And at the end of the day, if we look at it right here on PFF, and I'll pull it up and I'll scroll down to how this backfield touches, the serious touches ended up breaking out here. Let's go down to the Seattle backfield. You can see that the green is Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet got all 3 of the goal line carries. As you can see right here, this circle, the green is Charbonnet, the light blue is Kenneth Walker. The 2-minute drill, 9 snaps compared to just 3 for Kenneth Walker. He played more third downs than Kenneth Walker, and overall that led to more snaps. Basically, Kenneth Walker, for the most part, was just out there on a couple of more early down snaps. They were rotating drives, but the 2-minute offense and the goal line work happened to go to Zach Charbonnet in week 1. And this is massive because historically, Kenneth Walker has been getting all the early down, all the red zone, some of the 2-minute offense work. We saw that especially last year when he got that work in a different offense with a different offensive coordinator. So this is a concern. It's a concern if you're a Kenneth Walker fantasy manager and you took him in round 4, maybe round 5 of your drafts, which I did in one of my leagues. 10 carries for 20 yards right here. That's not going to be great. Now, if we look at it overall, there was not that many check down targets for the running backs in this game. Kenneth Walker ended up seeing 3 receptions, nothing for Zach Charbonnet, but I will call out that Sam Darnold in this game, he only threw 23 total times. Like, moving forward, the Seattle passing attack, they have a pretty good defense, better than people expect, I would say. Got a ton of pressure week 1. He's probably going to throw closer to 30, maybe 32 times per game, which could lead to some more opportunities for the backfield and Zach Charbonnet to catch at least 1 or 2 passes in a game. Now, I will call out that Kenneth Walker all throughout camp was missing practices and preseason games with some sort of foot issue, and they said that they were monitoring it. So maybe this is just kind of part of that. Maybe they don't want to go out there and load him up right away week 1 with 18 to 20 touches if he still has this lingering foot pain. Maybe they know something that we don't know, and if that's the case, that could be the reason why Zach Charbonnet saw more usage and more snaps and more routes and carries and all that. But there's also a world where that's not the case, and with the new offensive coordinator there, they just like Zach Charbonnet more in this role. They got to see him more in training camp compared to Walker, who was injured, and they said, yeah, this guy kind of can do it all. Either way, Charbonnet is like an elite handcuff, and maybe now he's going to be a flex option for you. Like, these trades that are happening, David Njoku for Charbonnet, I would definitely be doing that. Zach Charbonnet for Justin Fields, it really depends on your quarterback situation, but at this point, I'd probably rather have Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet or Dallas Goedert? Yes, give me Zach Charbonnet. I know Goddard had a couple of check down passes in week 1. Okay, that was just week 1. Zach Charbonnet for Ollie Gordon recently happened. Give me Ollie Gordon. This one I don't agree with. Zach Charbonnet for Myers, I would much rather have Jacoby Myers, but overall, you can see that trades are getting done right now. Whether you're in a not serious league, you can try and trade Ollie Gordon for him, or if you're in a serious league, there's some type of David Njoku type combination deal that's out there. Now, if you want to see where potentially Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, and all the other players in my top 50 overall rankings are for week 2, you can check it out totally free at fantasyrankings.com. It's also linked in the description below. This is the page that it will take it to. You just enter your email here, and I'll send you the top 50 overall rankings, not just for this week, but for the entire season. It'll be updated on Thursday and Friday. Be sure to check your spam and promotional folders as well. But if you want more than my top 50 rankings and you want my full top 150 rankings, so you know exactly who to be starting at every position, waiver wire tiers, game-by-game matchup notes, access to Ask Me Questions one-on-one, and a whole lot more, that's why I built the Fantasy Blueprint. It's what I use in all my leagues, and over 10,000 people are currently using in their leagues. You can learn more about the Blueprint with the link in the description below. There's a video, there's a bunch of information here as well, or you can type in jointheblueprint.com. You could also read some of the testimonials as well, because it's going to have all the tools that you need to schmack around your friends, waiver wire rankings, tiers, fab budget requirements, all the rankings and projections for your week-to-week start sits, and a whole whole lot more trade tools, rest of season rankings, you can check it out at jointheblueprint.com. Again, I use it in all my leagues. 10,000 people are using it in their leagues to smack around their competition from draft day, which has already happened, all the way to your championship week. Alrighty, the next running back we have to talk about is Omarion Hampton, a rookie running back of the Los Angeles Chargers, a first-round rookie running back, because this guy is one of the best running back prospects we've probably seen in the past decade when you combined it all together. And what does you combine it all together? It means, well, it starts with the overall production at a pretty good school at USC. Back-to-back seasons of 1,500 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns. The guy can also catch passes, as you can see right here. An 11% target share in college for a running back is very good. Anything above 7% solid, 10% is great. This is above 11%. 38 receptions is also really good as well. This is a player who, if we look at his breakdown, his last 2 years of college, according to my friend Austin Abbott on Twitter, you can see over the last 2 seasons in college, he was averaging 24 touches per game, over 150 total yards per game over 2 years. This is 25 starts and 1.32 touchdowns per game. Absolute elite production. You factor in that he's also a workhorse back at 221 pounds, went to the NFL Combine and showed out way better than expected, running a 4.46, top 10% according to Player Profiler speed to ever attend the Combine, top 10% burst as well when it comes to his jumps. So what are you getting here? Production at a legit school, elite production, who can catch passes, has the size and speed, and then he gets the first-round draft capital landing on a Chargers team that Jim Harbaugh loves his running backs and running the ball. So this is absolutely great. Now, some people were concerned with Najee Harris on this team that, okay, it's going to be a split backfield, and then obviously Najee Harris's eye injury from the 4th of July fireworks made it pretty clear that Omarion Hampton was going to be the starter in this backfield, since Najee basically didn't practice until like 4 to 5 days before their first game, and that's how it played out in week 1. Because in week 1 on Friday night against a tough Chiefs run defense, and I want to emphasize that because it's a very good run defense, the rookie played 81% of the snaps despite Najee Harris being active, only playing 18%. He handled 83% of the backfield carries, just 6% for Najee Harris. He also ran 61% of the routes, operated as a true and elite workhorse back. When you look at his overall touches in this game, 15 carries compared to just 1 for the only other running back in this backfield to see a carry was Najee Harris with 1. Absolutely dominated the touches. He also saw a target in this game, ran 25 routes. He dominated in all the high leverage situations like the 2-minute offense, red zone, all that. But the problem for Omarion Hampton in week 1 was that he was facing the Kansas City Chiefs run defense, Chris Jones on the interior. There, you just can't run on this team. And sadly, that's what happened for him in this game. 15 carries for just 48 yards, just 3.2 yards per carry. But as you see right here, somebody pointed out on Twitter, they commented on this Josh Norris tweet, a very good tweet showing all of the 15 carries and 2 catches from Omarion Hampton in this game. When you look at it, he forced 3 missed tackles. Some of his runs were a lot better than expected, but the problem is, this is Saquon Barkley's. This was from a Twitter account here. It was just a random person you could see here. They said, they put up a good point here. This was from Saquon Barkley's game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, right? The last time we saw the Chiefs defense other than week 1, 25 carries for 57 yards, absolutely negative efficiency, negative 48 efficiency in the Super Bowl. And that was Saquon Barkley in one of the most historic running back seasons we've ever seen. Yeah, I'm going to give the rookie running back in his first game ever a break going up against that Chiefs run defense. What we like to see was the usage. And sure, Najee Harris, they said that he was limited to 12 snaps after the game. He might see some more usage going forward, but they trusted this rookie in all situations. Jim Harbaugh did, a veteran coach, and that matters. And the short yardage, you can see right here, according to PFF, the short yardage situations, he played all 5 snaps. Third downs, he played 9 snaps compared to just 2 for Najee Harris. You scroll up here a little bit more, the goal line, there was only 1 snap in this game. It went to Omarion Hampton, and overall, like we said, all the plays, he played 80% of the snaps, which is an elite usage. So yes, when it comes down to it, of course, I'm probably expecting Najee Harris to play more snaps in the future. Omarion Hampton probably won't play 80% of the snaps. That would have basically led the NFL with Jonathan Taylor last year. But if he just plays 65% of the snaps, that's a great role for a rookie right away. And in week 2, he's going to get a much better matchup against the Raiders as a 3.5-point road favorite in this game at Las Vegas. This is a much better matchup. Now, the Raiders defense didn't look terrible, especially against the run in week 1, but a much better matchup than the Chiefs, which is going to probably be one of the better run defenses Hampton faces this year. You can see some current trades going on. Omarion Hampton for Garrett Wilson. This is the perfect buy low, sell high. Like, I would definitely be selling Garrett Wilson high right now. I mean, Justin Fields is getting so much hype for what he did in week 1, and deservingly so. He still only threw for like 220 passing yards, which was above his career average. He averages below 200 passing yards in his career. So the 7 catches Garrett Wilson got in week 1, most weeks is probably going to be at like 4 to 6, and not having these nearly 20-point performances, I'll take the workhorse running back in a quality offense in Omarion Hampton instead. And I should emphasize, it was a very quality passing attack. 3 touchdowns, 300 passing yards, 3 wide receivers involved for Justin Herbert. If he has time to throw, which he did in that game, we could see a lot of times where they're in the red zone and Hampton seeing some red zone and goal line carries. Now, the next running back you should try and trade for, this one's going to be tougher admittedly, but it's Bucky Irving, because this is a guy who absolutely continued to dominate. We saw him at the end of, whoa, that's the wrong camera, Sal. There we go. We saw him at the end of the 2024 season become one of the best running backs backs in fantasy, but there were some skeptics. Oh, is it going to continue? Will they give him a big workload? Well, in week 1, they did. Here's just a reminder for you what Bucky Irving did down the stretch. In his final 7 games last year, coming out of the bye week, he had 18.3 fantasy points per game between his receiving yards of 29 and his rushing yards of 90, nearly 120 total yards per game last year. He was a top 10 running back during this time. So then what was the problem? Like I said, the snap shares, right? There was always a concern about, oh, but he's just not on the field a lot. He's like a part-time player becoming really efficient. What happens if the efficiency drops? To start the year, he was a rookie. He was only seeing 30% of the snaps. Then the snaps start to increase, 40, 44, in a game where Rachaad White was out, 66. That was the very encouraging sign there. Rachaad White was out and we see 66, but then Rachaad White comes back and it's dropping for Bucky. Even in these weeks where he's producing, it's just 44% of the snaps. 46. He finally starts to see 50% of the snaps, and then it drops back down again to 43 before closing out the year, finally starting to take over the backfield. But as you can see, it's still just like 57% of the snaps. One game in the final game of the year spikes to 74% when Rachaad White, I don't believe, played again. So if there were skeptics of Bucky Irving as a second-round pick out there, it was like, well, this guy's only playing 50% of the snaps. What happens if Rachaad White remains involved? Do we really want to take on a guy in the second round playing 45 to 50%? But in week 1, 77% of the snaps. I will say Rachaad White was dealing with an injury in the preseason. Maybe this has to do something with that, but he had been practicing in full leading up to this game, which led to, for Bucky Irving, 78% of the rush attempts, majority of the routes at 57%. He was operating as a full 3-down workhorse back in this game, which is something we really only saw like 2 other times last year. And even more important for Bucky Irving is that he handled 100% of the goal line and short yardage work, something White used to do, and he also played 92% of the early down snaps compared to just 60% last year. This is Bucky Irving's backfield. You look at the box score, and this is why you have a buying opportunity. 14 carries compared to just 2 for Rachaad White. That's great to see, and just 1 for Sean Tucker, but he only averaged 2.6 yards per carry, right? So he only averages 2.6 yards per carry, 37 yards. He ends up, though, catching a touchdown. He has 4 receptions for just 8 yards and a touchdown, so 18 opportunities out of the 22 total backfield opportunities. Everything looked really good here for Bucky Irving. The fact that he got a touchdown gave him like 14 fantasy points, but when you look at the box score, it's not all that appealing. 14 carries for like 20-something, 30-something yards, 37 yards. It's not going to be easy to go get Bucky Irving in a trade, but honestly, based on this usage, Bucky Irving's probably just going to start averaging like 16 to 18 to 20 fantasy points per game like he did to end last year. If there's ever a time, if you ever wanted a chance to get Bucky Irving right now at any sort of discount compared to future weeks, it's literally right now. It's not going to be easy, I'll admit that, but now's like your only chance. Let's just see some deals happening right now. I mean, somebody traded away Bucky Irving for David Montgomery. That's insane. I would trade David Montgomery 10 out of 10 times. Of course, many of you will. This is an interesting deal. Bucky Irving for George Pickens and T. Higgins. If you have wide receiver depth, I would be fine doing that, although you are giving away like a 3rd and a 5th round pick for a 2nd round pick. Not my favorite thing to do. Bucky Irving, here's an Amarion Hampton and Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. Yeah, I'd be selling high on Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. I get it. He might be their starting running back. He looked good on limited touches. I completely understand. I'd rather have Bucky Irving here in this situation. Obviously, Bucky Irving for Jerome Ford is some sort of just a spoof. Brian Thomas for Bucky Irving is a fair deal overall. Christian McCaffrey for Bucky Irving, fair deal. This one's interesting. I'd much rather have right now Bucky and Keenan than Devon Achane in that offense, right? So there are a lot of deals you can get done right now, and that's only like a 1-for-1 or 2-for-1. There's other combo deals you could put together. I will say, like, if I have Devon Achane, I am trading him away right now for Bucky Irving, just seeing that Dolphins offense in week 1. Now, before we get into the next running back that you need to trade for before week 2, I don't know if you know this, but football is back, and so is your chance to cash in like never before. With my partners, DraftKings Pick 6, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, and your game day instincts can help you score real money fast. So now here's what you need to know.
Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, from breakout rookies to elite quarterbacks, and unlock the upside every snap brings.
And the better your calls, the bigger the payouts. Look, there's no gimmicks, no convoluted rules. It's just you, your reads, and your shot at big returns. Now here's the kickoff bonus. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. So all that's left for you to do is download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code SAL, make the right call, and ride the upside. In partnership with DraftKings Pick 6, the crown is yours. Now the next running back I think you should trade for, because he's kind of like a sneaky name compared to the other bigger names in the group, and he did have nice usage in week 1, is Tyron Tracy of the Giants, because from week 5 on last year, he got some usage in a primetime game. He really took over and was one of the better running backs in fantasy. And you can see that right here. Over those final 13 games, Tyron Tracy averages 13.5 fantasy points points per game. Between his receiving yards of 18 and his rushing yards of 62, he was averaging 80 yards per game. I mean, overall last year, that ended up putting him in the top 20 in running back carries, rushing yards, targets, receptions, and total yardage. This was a quality running back. But of course, the concern this offseason was the team ended up keeping Devin Singletary, didn't cut him. They drafted Cam Skattebo, a very productive college runner, in the top of the 4th round, so decent draft capital as well. Tyron Tracy was inefficient to end the year. He had some fumbling issues. That's the concern now, and Cam Skattebo was getting some hype at the end of training camp. But here's the deal. Cam Skattebo injured his hamstring in training camp. He missed about 2 weeks. And when a rookie misses that much time in training camp, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's like their only chance every single day to digest as much as they can, get a ton thrown at them. And he missed those 2 weeks. So he's probably behind right now, as the week 1 snap share suggests. I said that word kind of funny, but you could see here the Giants played 68 snaps in week 1. Tyron Tracy played 50 of them. Singletary, the veteran, 10. Just 8 for Cam Skattebo. What did this end up coming out to? 73% of the snaps for Tyron Tracy, ranked top 10 amongst running backs in week 1, elite usage, 59% of the carries. Cam Skattebo played just 11% of the snaps, Singletary 16%. In the overall game logs, it was 10 carries for Tracy, 3 for Singletary, 2 for Skattebo. So overall, this was Tyron Tracy's backfield in week 1. He handled 15 of a possible 22 backfield opportunities when you factor in his targets and receptions as well. So let me just say that again. 15 opportunities for Tyron Tracy in a game where his offense looked so atrocious. Like, the coach had to come out of this game, Brian Daboll, and say, yeah, our starting quarterback that we signed this offseason, Russell Wilson, he's still going to be our starting quarterback in week 2. That's when you know it's bad as a Giants fan. Already in week 1, there's quarterback questions. They didn't have their tackle, Andrew Thomas, in this game. Everything just stunk for the offense in the backfield, but despite that, we still got 15 opportunities in the worst case scenario for Tyron Tracy. Not bad when the other guys here, the veteran Devin Singletary, the rookie Cam Skattebo, only combined for 7. And the fact that Tyron Tracy had 10 carries for 24 yards, just 2.4 yards per carry, you might be going like, that was so inefficient. Another running back can easily overtake this. And that's true, but it was also terrible for the entire offense. And this is why you have a buying window. Right now is the reason that you have a buying window, because of how messy the offense was in week 1. Hopefully a better matchup in week 2. Hopefully Andrew Thomas along the offensive line can play in week 2, because if we can just get this offense from not looking like one of the 2 worst offenses in the NFL up there with the Panthers in week 1 to maybe just being like 23rd worst in the league and having time to throw for your quarterbacks, that's when a 70% running back like Tyron Tracy definitely is going to be in most of your starting lineups in fantasy. And at some point this year, I definitely don't think it should be right now based on how bad the Giants offensive line looked in week 1, Jackson Dart, like we saw in the preseason, has the ability possibly could elevate the Giants offense to a place where they are sustaining drives, they are getting to the red zone. That helps everybody, including your backfield in Tyron Tracy. Again, I will say, for the people saying Jackson Dart needs to start right now, no, they need to figure out their offensive line first. They need to get Andrew Thomas healthy first, because you can't put Jackson Dart behind that offensive line. It will literally ruin this rookie quarterback. But that's just my opinion. Again, I will emphasize that Cam Skattebo was dealing with a hamstring injury. Maybe it takes him a couple of weeks to get caught back up to speed in the NFL. But if Tyron Tracy is going to see this usage and can just be mildly efficient and not fumble the ball in week 2, he should be able to hold off Cam Skattebo. For those of you that do have Cam Skattebo, I do think you can still hold him on your bench, because we have the context that he did get injured in week 1, or he did get injured in the preseason and training camp, and he might still be returning from that. So by the time it's like mid-season, that's maybe where he can get more involved. Maybe. Here's some real-life trades happening over the past couple of days for Tyron Tracy. Kyle Pitts for Tyron Tracy. Give me Tyron Tracy. Tyron Tracy for Cam Ward is weird, especially because this is a 1 quarterback league. Maybe that was a super flex. Tyron Tracy for Keon Coleman. At this point, it's pretty fair even right there, whichever you need more, running back or wide receiver. Tyron Tracy for James Cook. I'd rather Cook. Tyron Tracy for Tucker Kraft. Yeah, if you take away Tucker Kraft's touchdown, the dude had like 2 catches for 9 yards in week 1. I'll take Tyron Tracy there as well. So there are deals that can get done right now for Tyron Tracy and the other 4 running backs that we talked about in this video. Now, if you want to see the wide receiver version of this video, like the wide receivers you should trade for before week 1, it's actually going to release tomorrow on Thursday. Maybe it's out right now. When it's out, it'll pop up here. But until then, you can check out the running back and wide receiver waiver ads. There's still going to be guys left on your waiver wire, even if the waiver period has ran. Be sure to check out these videos to make sure you're not missing out on any guys that are still left over.